Back to Double Fries No Slaw. Sunday, October 26th. TJ Pittenger, Richie Barnes, and Richie, it was nice to have a bye week this weekend. I feel big 2024 vibes where a bye week happens and you're happy. Kind of crappy to be in that situation, but here we are.
Yeah, no, it was fun though. It was nice to watch some stress-free football. Not a lot of great games on. A couple of really good punt returns in I think the Texas return, and I think A&M had one. So it was definitely it was fun to just be able to sit on the couch and not care what happened in any game you were watching and be able to just flip back and forth. So I definitely enjoyed my Saturday.
Yeah, no, it was good to not. It was good to not be annoyed while watching football.
Yes.
Although I texted a friend this last night and just said, it is a little annoying to watch other teams play competent football. When
including Wake Forest. We'll talk more about that Wednesday, but they look good.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start with them in just a minute, but Double Fries No Slaw. But before I just get annoyed, let's do an ad and then we'll go on. Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's. You can visit all three of their locations: 1818 West Tennessee, 2550 North Monroe, and 2870 Appalachian Parkway. Appreciate Guthrie's for their support. Hey, homecoming this weekend, so there will be a lot of people in town. If you are going to Tallahassee, I can't guarantee what the team will do for your mental health, but I do know that a gut box never lets you down. So see if what did Luke Combs write a song about? Cold beer never broke my heart. See if we can get him one to write one about Guthrie. So anyway, all right. Off to our first thought here. Florida State and Wake Forest this weekend. Florida State opens up as an 8.5-point favorite. We'll talk about this game more on Wednesday night. I thought I was not looking forward to the Stanford preview. I am, boy, I'm gonna have to fight through that one. But Florida State opens up as a big favorite. Again, not surprising. They've been a favorite in all but one game that they have lost this year. They've been a favorite 3 times in dropped games. Pitt, Stanford, and Virginia. When you think about that, weren't they a 10, 7, 17, 18? Yeah, so like a total of like 35 points worth of favorites across those 3 games, and you come away with losses in all 3. But Vegas is doubling down, and we'll preview this game more as it comes along. Richie, you and I haven't talked since Florida State put out the statement and said that they were going to evaluate at the end of the year. So maybe just like big picture thoughts there, because I haven't really talked with you about this. And then I do want to talk in this first kind of opening segment. Could an embarrassing loss against Wake potentially get them to change their minds or what? But anyway, overall thoughts first.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think we know we have a lame duck, right? It's a president in his last year, potentially, that, he's on a second term. So, his last year, what does he really care? That's kind of the vibes I'm getting from this program right now. I think a loss to Wake, I don't know if that would cost Norvell his job, simply because if you were going to fire him, you would have done it after that Stanford loss with the bye week coming up. And, putting out that statement was just really frustrating to me, saying we're going to do a comprehensive review. Like, what the hell is there to review comprehensively at this point? Like, we've seen everything. We've seen all we need to see at this point. I just don't understand where, and Michael Alford has been very good to both TJ and myself personally. He's been a friend of the show. He's an amazing person, amazing human, but I don't know what he's thinking. And I just think that statement was embarrassing as a Florida State fan and booster and someone who donates to the Battle's End. I was just embarrassed when I read that statement, basically saying Mike gets a free pass until the end of the year. I don't care if Mike wins every single game the rest of the season. He has to go.
Yeah, at this point, I think he's shown you enough. And we talked about this last week, not to continue to belabor this point. But even if he did win every game for the rest of the year, I feel like he's shown you enough of who he is, right? And what are you going to finish with? A top 20 class? Like, I just don't know, not to go so far into this, but man, I was looking at some of I forget who it was that posted it, but somebody posted like all of the busts that we've had.
Quarterback.
It's really, well, not even just quarterback, just everywhere. You think about like all the 4-stars that Mike has actually recruited, because we've talked about this. Like Florida State has continued to bring in, not good enough for our standard, but like top 20 classes. I think he's only had one class outside the top 20. It was his first year when he got signed like a month before signing day or whatever. So, I mean, that one I don't care about. I mean, the bust rate is so incredibly high. And so it's not just the bad recruiting, it's the bad development. It's the, reaching for guys that are not good enough, to play at a lot of Power 4 schools. And you have found a way to let them make it on your roster. And so anyway, yeah, I mean, we're in full agreement. I have done a couple of videos since the announcement was made, and most people are pretty frustrated on that. I don't know.
He's never had a winning season with his entire roster, right? Jordan Travis was the one thing he inherited that kept him afloat. He gets credit for bringing in, Jermaine Johnson here, Thomas Jerry and Jones, Jared Verse, you name it. But he's never had a winning season with his own roster. And that's kind of where my mind is at. And we're not going to have a winning season this year. Spoiler alert to anyone who thinks we might.
So my thoughts on Wake, who got a win yesterday against SMU, and they tried to lose. Did you watch that? Like, there were other games on that were better, but Wake was really good. Like, from a drama standpoint, it was just a terrible from like an execution standpoint. Did you see the end of the Wake game?
I did not.
Wake fumbled twice inside of the 5-yard line, down 2 both times. They were down 2, fumbled twice instead of the 5-yard line. SMU gets the ball back, can't get a first down, and then has to punt the ball back. Wake has one long pass into field goal range and then makes a 50-yarder as a walk-off winner.
I did see that kick that went through the uprights, but still hit like the post.
Barely went through.
Yeah.
I had a pretty big bet laying the other way. It was a 5-team parlay, and that was the one that missed it, just to let you know. So I hate Wake even more, but maybe they'll, we'll see if I hate them or not after this weekend even more. But look at Hunter saying, Richie, bless you, because we all saw you sneeze a million times. What I worry about with Wake is nothing to do with them. They're not, I mean, they scored 13 points on SMU. It's just all us. It's just all that Florida State feels like they will find a way to lose anything. And that's where this team feels like it's at. I do think that if they were to lose an embarrassing game against Wake Forest, not by like 3, I mean, because really any loss to Wake is embarrassing. But if they lost this game by like 14 plus and they really weren't competitive and you guys kind of had guys like quitting, like the quit factor was there, I think there's a chance they would let him go. I think there's a chance they would say, all right, it's too toxic at this point. But I don't even know why that makes sense at that point. You got 4 weeks left. You just suck it up and you finish it out. What would you put your percentage at? Florida State loses this game by 2 touchdowns. What's your percentage they let him go?
I'd say 50-50. And it's ironic that we're talking about Wake. I remember my freshman year, I sat at a night game in the rain. Wake Forest beat us 30-0. And I had friends from out of town that came with me that I got them into the game. And I was just sitting there staring at the field for probably 10 minutes like this. And they're like, Richie, we got to get out of here. We got parties to go to. And I'm like, okay. If something like that happens and you do not let him go, then I'm personally going to call President McCollum and say, Mike's got to go. President McCollum and I, we had to drinks in New Orleans a couple of years ago. So he and I are good friends as far as I'm concerned. And I will voice my opinion. No, if they lose to Wake, even if it's a close game and it's a walk-off field goal by Wake, it needs to happen. Like, what is the point of belaboring this? We're already hearing that UF is in talks potentially with Lane Kiffin. Why would you put yourself behind the 8 ball when there's a lot of openings of decent jobs and just allow other good coaches to get swallowed up while you sit here and twiddle your thumbs and say, oh, we'll wait until November. And then or December, yeah, end of November, I guess, because you're not going to a bowl game this year, and then your recruiting class falls completely apart. Get ahead of things. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know if they will. I'm at like 20%. I think you could lose to Wake by 20 and they still won't do it. I don't think it's happening.
If
Like
that happens, I'm TJ. I don't know. Like I will continue to give to boosters. I will continue to give to Battle's End, but like my investment emotionally in this program is done at that point. I will watch the games. I will turn the TV on, and I will sit on the couch and just bitch and moan and be the worst husband possible as Lindsay sits next to me during every Florida State game.
it feels like, and again, we've talked about this, but it feels like at the end of the day, we're not going to look back next November, right? No matter what the record is through 2 months, we're not going to look back and be like, oh man, well, I'm really glad they fired him in October, or I'm really glad they've waited until, end of November. I just think the apathy is so much there that I wonder what the crowd looks like. We'll talk about this more on Wednesday, but I wonder if people even show up. And that's, I think they would have more so had a change been made, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe they wouldn't have in that situation either. Let me give Sleeper some love real quick, and then we will move on to our next segment. Harlan, I threw it up for you, but go get on the Sleeper app right now. On the app, they have a free play with the Jordan Love passing yards. It's more or less half a yard. They play against Pittsburgh. Is that the night game? Yeah, the Sunday night game. Go get that right now. Use our code DFNS. You get 100% match up to $100. And for like 5 more days, you still get a free play, a free $20 play on the Sleeper app if you use our code DFNS. Check their terms of use, because terms and conditions do apply. Richie, I've done a video on this. We've talked about this kind of off air, different thoughts back and forth. I want to know who your idea. Let's do one at a time. So we'll go good then bad. Let's assume that no matter what happens the rest of the year, which let me tell you something, if they go 5-0 down this last stretch, which they're not going to, they're going to keep Mike. I just want to prepare you for that awful doomsday scenario, but they will absolutely keep him at 8-4, which before the year, we all would have agreed that was fine to keep. So I won't go hellfire and brimstone on that, but I just want you to know they will. I'm even worried about 7-5 a tad. But all that said, let's assume the most likely scenario, they let go of Mike at the end of the year. Who's your we're going to do an ideal candidate and then a nightmare candidate, and we can talk about anybody else you want to in this segment. But who's your ideal candidate for FSU?
Can I give 2?
Start with 1, because in case you steal mine, or start with 1.
I'm 50-50 on 2 coaches, but if I had to lean towards 1, I want Lane Kiffin. That's my number 1.
Why? Go on.
I think
we all know why, but just go a little deeper.
I think he has an explosive offense everywhere he's been, right? He has experience. He's matured a ton since his days at Tennessee, USC, and Alabama. What he's done at Ole Miss should never be done at Ole Miss. I'm sorry. If there's any, I doubt there might be 1 or 2 Ole Miss fans watching this, but you guys will never be this good consistently again. And I think he can recruit extremely well, and he knows the state of Florida very well. I just think Lane Kiffin is the ideal candidate. And probably another top reason that I want him is because I do not want him going to UF, because I think if he goes to UF, he will be extremely successful, and that program will once again be a problem, which they have not been since 2008.
Yeah, I would be good with Lane. I think the chances of that are about as close to 0 as could be. My ideal for this, I think it's so being realistic, right? Like, I guess I could say Kirby or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah,
but being realistic, I think it's James Franklin if you can get him for a reduced cost. I think you could go out and you could pull him Manny Diaz from Duke. I think you could offer Rhett Lashley $10 million a year to come in. I don't know if you could afford that or not, but whatever. I think there's a lot of bigger name coaches that are currently coaching that didn't just get fired from where they were at previously. I think that there are some guys that would make sense. I think Manny's a gamble. I think Jeff Brom's a gamble. I think Kenny Dillingham's a gamble. I think, Brent Key's a gamble. I think those last guys aren't leaving. They're all alma maters anyway. I think Alex Golish is a gamble. I think John Summerall is a gamble. I think any coordinator is a gamble. People talk about both guys for Ohio State. They talk about Schulman at Georgia. I think all of those guys are gambles. I don't want either coordinator that we have on staff right now. So
I don't want a G5 coach. I do not want a G5 coach again.
Yeah, I don't want to do I don't want this experiment again. Summerall would be the guy that I'm most comfortable with at Tulane, but still not necessarily the direction I would want to go. But so, yeah, I think it would be Franklin. I think he would immediately establish a floor. And this is a good comment from Blake about the recruiting not being much better than Mike's. I agree with that, but I think the hit rate is way higher. I think he does a much better job of identifying talent and bringing in guys who will make a difference. And the development is better. He's not had to live in the portal. He's not had to use a massive Band-Aid like Norvell has. So I agree with that. I also think that, I feel pretty confident that he would restore a floor of 8 or 9 wins annually. And I know that's not the standard. I know that's not, we want to win 8 or 9 games and be fine. I think you're in the 8 to 10 range every single year with him. And after having 4 years of, losing seasons out of 6, I'm ready for there to be a floor that is not embarrassing. 9 wins or even 8 wins at Florida State is not good enough. Let's be honest. But it would be a floor that's much better than what we have under Mike Norvell, which the floor at this program under Norvell is 2 or 3 wins. And, maybe we'll get to 4 or 5 this year, best case. Also on the recruiting, if he can recruit the same at Penn State as Mike Norvell is recruiting at Florida State, I've got to think that could tick up just a little bit by not having to recruit people to Happy Valley, Pennsylvania. So if you're recruiting the same in Pennsylvania as somebody else is in Florida, I think you may see a slight tick up. Who's your other coach that you would want?
So you had mine. My other one. I was between Lane and Franklin.
I knew.
To quote the great Michael Jordan, "The ceiling is the roof." I think that we have a really good opportunity to bring James Franklin in at a discount because he's still owed over $50 million from Penn State. So you might be able to get him for between $6 to $8 million a year, which, again, to working class people like us, that doesn't sound like a discount, but in the college football world in the year 2025, 2026, that is the fact. I think James Franklin, he recruits very well at Penn State. It's much easier to recruit at Florida State when you have the state of Florida, all the talent there, and you basically own South Georgia. Yeah, you got to fight UGA off on a few recruits, but your recruiting base at Florida State is probably second to none in the country. So I think that alone, and James Franklin, give me a pissed off James Franklin who was one play away from going to the national championship game last year and just got fired over a close loss, to who's looking to prove himself. He's still fairly young. Yeah, James Franklin, I think, would be a phenomenal hire. And again, none of this happens if Mike is still around at the end of this year. And if he is, it's going to be ugly in Tallahassee in 2026. And I think a lot of the people at Garnet and Gold and Madison Social and other local venues, Gordo's, you name it, will be very upset because they depend on a good football team when they do their annual forecast with their budget. And it's not going to happen if he's still around.
Yeah, it impacts so many people. I was talking with my buddy John over at you have the spear hanging up there over at Got Spears. He was like, yeah, man, after they lost to Pitt, like people forgave the Virginia thing. He's like, I haven't sold any spears after this thing. It impacts so many people.
Everything.
Who's your nightmare?
Applications?
Do you have like a nightmare scenario coach that you just do not want to see in Tallahassee? I mean, like within realism, there are names out there. Yeah. Like I don't want to see Willie Taggart back, but like that, names that are being mentioned.
I've not really seen a whole lot of names being mentioned. Any G5 head coach, Honestly, it's just I want a proven coordinator at an SEC school. I'd be okay with that way before I'd be okay with a G5 head coach who we just did that experiment, right? And I don't want a head coach who was they kind of caught lightning in a bottle and had a good 1 or 2 years, because we did that with Willie. And how did that work out? Florida State should be extremely selective. And if they are going to make the investment to pay out the 54, 59, whatever $1 million it is, they need to go and overspend, and find the money to get whoever they can. A G5 head coach, even Golsh at USF, that's a nightmare for me, because it's such a gamble. And as someone who gambles a lot on sports and loses a lot, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So the thing about a group of five coach to me is it is just such a roll of the dice. Like Mike was everything you wanted, like in a good hire. He had built up a group of five program. He had experience at the Power 4 level coaching at Arizona State. He recruited fairly well for that level, got good players to Memphis. His players loved him. He brought the passion and energy that you would want. He's very organized. Build out a good tree. Like we talk about, like Lanning and some of these guys that coach under him, Dillingham, like Atkins, was really great at one time. We really thought that like he was everything you'd look for in a group of five coach. At the same time, when you bring up a G5 coach, G6 now, up to the Power 4, it is on the job training. Like it is them trying to learn how to manage a program and recruit like a program. For much of their tenure, for much of the early part of their tenure. And most guys just can't figure it out. Not most. Oh, sorry. There's just such a wide range of what the outcomes of their tenure could be. It could work out really well. You could find the next Urban Meyer, right? Who came from Utah, which was group of five, but like a little smaller of a program and did great things. Or you could turn into what you have now, right? Or what you got in the last two times. I know Willie was at Oregon, but before that he was, he was at Oregon for like a year. He was at USF for so long. And Golish might go somewhere and be absolutely great. And Summerall might go somewhere and be absolutely great. They also might come in here and absolutely suck. And that's, I think, what would scare people is you've got to get a guy who knows what he's doing at this level. If you had more time to play with and you saw Golish like consistently competing for the college football playoff and he'd done it for several years and maybe gone to the playoff a couple of times, maybe then at that point you'd say like, okay, well that makes sense, right? Like maybe you could bring them in and be really good. Or again, maybe a guy like if Malzahn had really worked out well at UCF, I don't know that you'd hire a guy that was that old anyway. But for example, if he had been at UCF and they'd been in the Big 12 and they competed for a few Big 12 championships, or they'd made the playoff and kind of gotten back to where they were, then I think that's a guy you'd consider. At this point, man, I don't know, man. I don't think you can go group of five. My nightmare, I don't even think people say this anymore, Richie, but I mean, it would obviously be Dion. Like it would, I would take Jimbo before I took Dion back.
What was the score of the Colorado game last night? They got blown out, if I recall correctly.
They're a dumpster fire. And I don't even think that's really a serious candidate. If they were up and rolling, if they were like, I don't know, 7-1 or whatever it would be, 6-1,
53-7.
Yeah. If they were up right now, like 6-1, even like 5-2, and there would be buzz around it. I think most of the Dion train has left. I think most people have said like, no, this isn't going to happen anymore.
If you're looking to play long term, he could potentially be your Ron Zook, because he will have a very talented roster at Florida State. Get fired. And then you just hope the next coach can come in and keep him, because that's what Ron Zook did. He built an extremely talented roster at UF, got fired, and they immediately won a national title. So that would be the only positive.
So what's tough about that? 2 points. I'll play devil's advocate here. I don't know that he would bring that talented of a roster. Like he refuses to recruit unless he just changed his whole mindset. I don't know that he's going to just start recruiting because he gets to a new school, because he's not doing it at Colorado. Like, he's not had a recruiting class in the top 30 yet. I mean, he's like in the 80s right now. And so maybe he changes his mindset, but I don't know that I buy that. Also, too, with the portal, like if the portal existed when Ron Zook left, like would Florida have been like if the portal existed when Ron Zook got fired, would Urban have won those 2 titles?
That's a tough question.
Like maybe, but
I really don't know.
Some of those guys would have left.
Yeah, I can't say yes or no. You got to think of guys like Percy, Tebow, the murderer Hernandez. Like I don't know. Like it's a tough question. Urban he is an amazing college football coach. Yeah, he sucked in the NFL, but that happens. It happened to Steve Spurrier when he went to the Redskins. I don't know if we're allowed to say that word anymore, but when he went to the Redskins, he was horrible.
It was the Redskins then. That's fine.
And then he went he went to South Carolina and had success there. So, some people are just really good college coaches. And I think, I don't know if they win both of them, but I think they probably still get one with Urban. He's that good of a coach.
Maybe one the year. Yeah. Tebow's last year. I don't think Leak and all those guys.
2008.
Yeah. I think it'd be tough to say that League and all those guys stick around had the portal existed. All right, just very quickly, I'm still pretty anti this. I can talk myself into it in some aspects, but I'm still pretty anti this. What are your Jimbo thoughts?
I'm against it just because I don't think he has. I know he's publicly stated he wants to get back into coaching, but I don't think he's adapted enough. We saw it at A&M. He had all the money in the world. And in his mind, in Tallahassee, he thought it was a money problem. Well, you go to Texas A&M, and they say yes to every single thing you want. You are buying rosters every year like the Yankees, and you still could not get it done. I think if you could get, 2010 to 2013 Jimbo, you would absolutely take him. I can tell you this, I wouldn't be mad about it if he was the guy to take over, just to see, like, what the hell, like, what are we even doing right now? Like, we have no bright future in our sights. So I think I'd be okay with it. He would not be my first choice or second or third probably, but I also would be a little open-minded about bringing him back. I think there's some potential with him. There really is. And maybe he's been humbled to the point where he's like, okay, let me get back to basics. Maybe coming back to Tallahassee, he'll have his football only facility. He has everything that he wanted when he left for Texas A&M. I'd be okay with Jimbo. I actually would. I know a lot of fans are adamantly against it, and I don't blame any of them. Like, I don't at all, but I'm not in that group right now.
So a couple of good comments here. Would Jimbo be an upgrade? Yes, he would be an upgrade. So would
100%.
this Diet Dr. Pepper can. No offense, Mike. Second, the comment on A&M being loaded with his recruits. They absolutely are. Does it worry you a little, just to play devil's advocate to that, because it is a good question. Does it worry you a little bit that he had all those same recruits and better players from a star rating perspective, even when he was there, and he couldn't win with them? Like, yeah, recruiting would not be his issue. I think it's the way that maybe the game has passed him up. I think where I would sell myself on the idea of Jimbo would be if you missed on your first 2 or 3 top targets and he was like option D or your fourth option, and you could get him at a cheap price. You could get him at like $3.5-4 million a year because he wants to prove himself. Yeah, that would be something I think you would consider until you can get out of this conference and you have a little more money. But I think you could do worse than Jimbo, but that's still not the way I want to go.
No, and I think at this point enough time has passed to where people are going to say, okay, let's bring him back. And if you've ever talked to Jimbo, and I was fortunate enough to be covering the team as a reporter for the FSU, the school newspaper at the time, so I talked to Jimbo all the time in person. That man knows football like nobody else. Like, I'll never forget the story he was telling us about how he was recruiting Pat White, who you might remember was a quarterback at West Virginia when he was at LSU, and he told Pat White, this is a story he told us. He's like, listen, you can go to West Virginia and you might win the Heisman, or you can come here and play wide receiver for me, and you'll be a top 10 draft pick. That's your choice. And he's like, he chose to go to West Virginia. The guy we always joke like, oh, he doesn't know ball. Jimbo knows ball. And I think maybe being away from the game and coming back could be a huge benefit for him personally as a coach. And I think he'll realize what he did wrong when it comes to a relationship standpoint with the people in the Moore Center. I'm talking myself into wanting Jimbo, TJ.
No. Before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's end it just in case. Okay, the names that keep getting brought up: Clark Lee, Brent Lee, Kenny Dillingham, and Jeff Brom. They're all coaching at their alma maters. With what you're seeing out of Indiana right now, like the fact that you can win anywhere with the right investment, I just can't see guys leaving their alma mater. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe you pull one of those guys. I think they'd all be great coaches. Kenny is the one I'm probably least sold on. But, and no offense to him, I know he did good things with Jordan while he was here. But I just don't see you pulling somebody from their alma mater unless you just make them a ridiculous offer. And I don't see that.
Which you can't afford to do.
Yeah. I think all those guys would be great, but I don't think you can pull any of the four of them. So let me give some love to Tallahassee Ford, Richie, and then we will move on to our last one. Tallahassee Ford, if you are in the market for a new or used vehicle, let them beat other people's prices. They can deliver to you anywhere. When I was in there, their owner, Bill McKinney, told me there are cars that you can find on other people's lots that they don't even have to ever, the car never even has to be in Tallahassee. If you have something at a Ford dealership or somewhere close to you, reach out to Tallahassee Ford, make them aware of it, and let them see if they can get you taken care of. They work a ton with different athletes on FSU's campus. You've got the commercial of Jordan and Trey and different guys there rolling. Make sure that you reach out to Tallahassee Ford if you are in the market. If you're going to the games this weekend, go see them at the block party, or I think that, I don't know this week if they're at the north side or the east side to get them, but it is listed on their website. We'll talk about it through the week so I can let you guys know where they're at. They also do a tailgate in lot 14 night game this weekend. We'll talk about that on Wednesday, but go see our friends over at Tallahassee Ford. Richie, we talked about this, or we just kind of alluded to it earlier. How worried are you that Florida State brings Mike Norvell back in 2026? Like
extremely.
Tell me more.
Extremely. I think the buyout is the biggest thing. And I think college coaches, the best job in the world is to get a multi-year contract as a head college football coach, because your pay is basically guaranteed regardless of how terrible you are. I am terrified of the idea of Mike Norvell coming back next year and he somehow finds a way to upset Alabama again and gets the hype train going again. No, I think that, honestly, I hate to even say this, I think there's a better than 60% chance that Mike Norvell is the head coach at Florida State in 2020.
Really? Okay. And I'm way lower than that.
I'm just saying, based on what I can only go based on what I've seen and the statements from Michael Alford. I'm terrified if Mike Norvell comes back, but actually thinking about it more, it'd actually make next season very stressless, because I'll be like, okay, we got a crappy coach and we're probably going to lose most of our games. And maybe, just maybe, we'll get rid of him this year and we'll go from there.
I am way lower than 60, but I think it's higher than 0. I think it's probably closer to like 25 would be where I'm at.
High.
25% that they, wait, you just said 60%.
Or that low, excuse me, that low.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait a minute, bro, 40% lower, 35% lower than you. You threw me off there. Yeah, I think it would take quite a few wins. And if you look at the rest of the schedule, like, I hate to play this game, but while we're on here, I will pull up just quickly. Like, when you look at what Florida State has left,
rapid fire wins and losses. Let's go.
Well, I want to look at, while we're doing this, I'll just look at the FPI, which I know we have different thoughts on, how good or bad the FPI is. But the Wake Forest game, because all these teams you play are terrible too, right? Like, I know that we're terrible and we're all miserable, but like, it's not like you're playing a bunch
outside of Clemson. Yeah.
I don't think they're any good either. And if I don't know what Cade's status is, you got an 83% chance to beat Wake Forest. And I'm not predicting the game just yet, but I do think you beat Wake Forest. Do you have that as a win?
No.
Okay. So you have that as a loss.
I think we're snowballing.
FPI has a 47% chance to beat Clemson because of how terrible they've been too.
It's a loss.
You've got an 80.8% chance to beat Virginia Tech, who is awful.
That's a win.
And you have a 66% chance to beat NC State.
In Raleigh, that's a loss.
And against Florida, 43%. Like, even your two like tough games on the road that you're supposed to lose, you're like a coin flip in both of them. And so my worry is more so he's going to get saved by playing a bunch of bad teams down the stretch.
This is the conundrum that I find myself in, TJ, is that when I watch the games, I'm 100% in wanting to watch Florida State win. But looking forward, I almost want us to lose every game. But the second 7:30 comes on next Saturday for kickoff, I'm going to be all in on Florida State, decked out in Florida State gear from Garnet and Gold, and just cheering my butt off. But as I sit here right now, I kind of want us to just lose out on the season just so we can move on to the next era. That's kind of where I'm at.
Speaking of Garnet, listen, have you seen this campus? This is not an ad within the show, but it kind of is. Have you seen this Campus Course brand? They're all over Instagram and stuff.
I've not.
It's the one, it's like golf polos and stuff. They do have other stuff too, but it lets you like customize. You said gear, and they sell this at Garnet and Gold, but it lets you, if you go on their website, you can customize what you get. So I got another shirt that has the, you know what? Actually, I did give them a shout out the other day. So if I can find it real quick, I'll throw it up on the screen just so you can see it, Richie. But they let you put on, here you go. Here, check this out. I know this is right in the middle of the segment, but they let you put on the gear like wherever you want. So like I put like a spear here on this one. I got the Seminole head here on this one on the right. This has the Seminoles, like just the word of it over there. So go check out Campus Course if you want. But yeah, same thing. I'll be decked out in this gear. But you know why I'm not cheering for us to lose? Because I did that last week and it didn't help me. Like nothing. Like at the end of the day, I was like, oh well, if we lose this, we'll get a new coach, and it didn't even help us do that. And so I don't know. Now certainly, if they lose, what are we 3-4? I think if they lose 2 more games, I don't think they bring him back after 6-6.
I hope not.
I don't think it's outside of the. Now, this team is not good. And if they quit, if this implosion that we kind of are seeing happen in real time, the cracks that are there, if that continues to manifest itself, they will lose more of these games down the stretch than they win. And then that'll be enough. They'll go 2-3 down the stretch or worse, and they'll get a new coach. But I'm not confident they do, because these other teams that we're playing are like, they have the same exact issues. Clemson, they've quit. NC State has quit. Virginia Tech is absolutely putrid. Florida, let's see what they look like without their coach these next few weeks before we call it on that one. And then Wake is objectively terrible. Now, Stanford was objectively terrible too. I actually do think we win this weekend. I don't know if I'm going to predict that when we get to Wednesday or not. Probably go the other way, just the Harlan route on predicting games for the rest of the year. But I think there's certainly a pathway where you could win 4 of these games down the stretch and go 7-5, and the admin kicks the can down the road. I think that's a pretty terrible decision. Now, if you go 5-0 and you finish 8-4, they ain't firing this coach after 8-4.
No.
I just want you to know. And whether you think they should or shouldn't, I mean, I still would be in the camp of you should, because you just pissed away a 9, 10, 11 win season by losing 3 one-score games because your coach is terrible. But
look what Penn State just did.
Yeah,
that's all I needed to see.
Well,
Penn State is a serious program.
Yeah,
Florida State is not a serious program right now.
Yeah, they take football seriously at that school. And look, I hate to say it, they take football seriously at Florida too.
Yeah.
You know, did you see the reports of what they were offering Lane? $13.5 million. I don't know how true that is or not.
Goodness.
Buddy Martin reported that, but he'd be the highest paid coach in college football. And so I don't know if the Lane would work out or not there, but my gosh, they at least care. And
Yeah.
Miami, listen, I hate them too. Miami, same way. They got nationally embarrassed on College Game Day one morning where Herb Street just ripped them a new one about how they didn't care about athletics. And what did they do? They went out and got a guy that could recruit the heck out of players. He's not very good on the field, but he's pretty good at getting guys in there. And they win a lot of games because of that now. And so, I mean, Mario has Miami in a place where 10 wins is a disappointing season, Richie. They won 10 games last year and they were disappointed. They're going to win 10 or 11 this year and they're going to be disappointed if they don't go to the playoff. So I'd like to have those problems. I'd like to be looking at a 10-win season saying I'm disappointed. I'd like to be looking at a 7-1 record that they are right now and saying I'm disappointed.
There was a point in Florida State fandom as someone who grew up in the 90s where 10 wins was a disappointment.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? We didn't win 11. We didn't go undefeated. We didn't play for a national title. I remember we played for a national title 3 straight years, 98, 99, and 2000. And, anything other than that. So I'm spoiled growing up when I did as a Florida State fan. But yeah, all these other programs, like, if the thought of going potentially 4-8, 5-7 would disgust them. And it disgusts me as a Florida State fan, knowing that's what's probably going to happen, even with a horrible schedule coming up.
It worries me. I'm at 25%. I think they go 2-3 down the stretch. I think they lose to Florida, Clemson, and NC State. I think they beat Wake, maybe beat Virginia Tech, and 5 wins is not good enough, right? 8 wins this year probably wasn't good enough with how bad the schedule is, but I don't think they win enough to get it done. But man, there is a concern that this admin that I mean, Alfred's included in that. This admin that just kicks the can down the road and doesn't want to, for whatever reason, do the right thing. I think I've done speculation, Richie. I've talked with people. I've had my own thoughts, everything else. I think the reason they didn't move off of Norvell is just hoping that he would get to 7 or 8 wins so that they wouldn't have to. Like, I think that's what it truly came down to. It was a, or get off the pot, and they didn't want to yet. And so they got off the pot. And they said, hopefully he can find a way to get a few more wins so we don't have to do this right now. Knowing that he probably couldn't, and they would have to make the change at the end of the year. But I do think that this is probably the best case scenario for FSU right now. Internally, not what's really best for the program, is just kicking the can down the road another year. So hopefully I'm wrong on that.
And that mentality is loser mentality, TJ. Like, that's like me having an employee who's leads in a department or a section of a department, and they're not hitting their numbers. They're not doing what they need to do, but it's just good enough to where I don't really have cause. No, I am going to find cause to get rid of you. That's the mentality you need to have. And if you're a head coach making $10 million a year, and you cannot figure out how to at least get to a bowl game, which he might. Again, the schedule is trash. He might get to a bowl game. But even then, after beating Alabama, guess what? You raised your expectations. That's like a salesman making a huge sale and then selling nothing else the rest of the quarter. Like, you need to live up on what you've shown you can do. Mike has not, and he will not, and he cannot do that. He needs to be gone. I just don't know if he will be.
I am not cheering for Wake Forest, but there would be benefits to the program overall if they just went ahead and dropped this game this weekend. So
go Demon Deacons.
No, I won't go that far. I will cheer for us to win, but it doesn't really matter what I cheer for. At the end of the day, it's the guy that's running the show that clearly can't get it done. So quickly, Harlan, you even got to flip over, but quickly shout out Garnet and Gold. Again, you can get this campus course or anything else, Nike, Columbia, Peter Millar, whatever you're looking for at garnetandgold.com. Use our code NOSLAW, NOSLAW for 15% off your order. I think orders $75 or more are free shipping. If you order in the state of Florida, it usually gets to you in like 2 or 3 days. So hit up gardengold.com. We appreciate them, as always, for their support. Richie, got any shout outs or anything this week?
No shout outs this week. Just enjoy Saturday night, everybody.
We will do a live show on Tuesday.
Actually, shout out Baker Mayfield. He goes on in about 2 hours. So.
They better not let me down against the lowly Saints, but who knows, man? I was pissed off on Monday night. So
it's in the dome. You never know.
The shout out Baker. Yeah. Shout out to everybody who continues to tune in and watch us and rant in the comments. You guys are the real MVPs, especially the out of state people, whether you're watching from, I know we got folks in Tennessee. I know there's people in Alabama. I know there's people all over. Shout out to you folks, because you guys are the best. So I think that's all I got for today. Appreciate all those who support. We will talk to you guys. We'll do a live show at some point this week. I may have a commitment on Tuesday morning, but we will do a live call in at some point, and live show on Wednesday night to preview the weight game. Can't wait for that one. But we will shoot.
It's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. But we will talk to you guys soon. As always, go Noles.